values he'll reinstate. Make our healthcare system great. Milton, have a plan for GERS. The WAPA crisis will be addressed. Education will become the best. Vision, solutions, and ideas for all the problems we face. We need him in the Senate. Don't let skills and talent waste. We're on the verge of chaos. No time to be frivolous. So let's get serious. What Milton? 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 Matter. We're tired of all the talk. Need someone to walk the walk. So let's get serious. What Milton? Matter. Let's get serious. What Milton? Matter. Number 15 on your general election ballot.
Milton Potter.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Milton Potter. I'm a candidate for a seat in the 34th Legislature of the Virgin Islands. Our purpose here today, though, is to talk a little bit about crime, violence, and issues affecting the Virgin Islands family. We're looking at causes, we're looking at solutions. I believe as the family goes, so goes its territory. And a lot of what we are seeing in our community today that looks like crime is really an issue of families in distress. And I think that there are a lot of things that we can do to begin to address and strengthen our families. And I think that it will go a long way towards positively impacting crime in our community. We've put together a real unique group of persons here today from our community, persons who've been involved and engaged with families, with victims as well as perpetrators of crime. We have police officers, pastors, counselors, all here to share their thoughts and their perspectives as to what we can do to find meaningful solutions to the issue of crime in the Virgin Islands community and the issue of our families in crisis. So I'm going to start with some brief introductions, starting from my right and then moving forward.
So, good afternoon. My name is Captain Sandra Colbourne. I'm employed with the Virgin Islands Police Department. I am the crime prevention officer in charge, and I am in charge of the entire territory, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix. And my purpose in crime prevention, our purpose is to look at issues within our community and to see how we can engage in changing a negative to a positive. I've been with the police department for 32 years now, and every day that I go to work is like my first day on the job. I just love what I do. And I went through the patrol unit for a year. I then went into the investigation bureau, and while I was in the bureau, I took up some forensic courses. I then volunteered my free time in forensic because I just thought that that is where I wanted to work, to be. And I was in forensic for approximately 16 years. And from there, I went and I was promoted to sergeant, and I was over a squad. And then I took my other examinations, and I went from lieutenant to captain. And at one time, I was the deputy chief of St. Thomas, St. John district. So I'm here, and I'm glad to be invited to this forum. And I'm excited about sharing my thoughts as to where we can go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Colbourne.
Good day. My name is Milton A. Petersen, Senior. I'm a supervisor with Virgin Islands Police Department. My current assignment is with the Crime Prevention Bureau. Of course, Captain Colbourne and I are classmates, so we both have 32 years within the Virgin Islands Police Department. Again, with 32 years, you end up in a lot of places. I've ended up from everything from patrol to the Criminal Investigation Bureau, where we investigated just regular crimes. Then I moved to the homicide unit, where I spent about almost 6 years, 5.5 to 6 years there. Moved into supervisory duties. I've been the supervisor of detectives. I've been the chief of detectives. I was also formerly the chief of police for the St. Thomas, St. John, Water Island District. I saw the brief stint as acting commissioner for a while, and so I've kind of seen the whole spectrum of the criminal justice system from both aspects, from trials to everything. So I think I'm pretty well rounded after 32 years.
Absolutely. I think we're blessed and fortunate to have 64 years between both of you. Yeah, I know just having that brain trust, we are losing the best and the brightest from the Virgin Islands Police Department. We're losing them in Joe. So I'm really honored knowing the depth of your experience, both of you, with VIPD. I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for your service.
Our pleasure.
Dr.
My
Thomas?
name is Bentley Thomas, pastoring the Bethel Missionary Baptist Church for the last 57 years.
Oh.
It's a long time. And I've been able to deal with several young people. I've been with the prison system in St. Thomas for over 40 years, giving my service in and out. And now I'm a member of the parole board. And which I'll talk about later in terms of how we can help our young people in the community. And by the way, our church is the church that lost one of our ministers, Stanfield Dumas, down at the border and the beach down there, March. He just disappeared. And we haven't found him since then.
Wow.
And we know for sure he wasn't drowned, but he just disappeared. So that's another thing for crime department. Yeah. And they said this is about the fourth or fifth person that went out there and just got missing.
Wow.
So we're concerned about that. So I think this forum today is very necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Neville Williams, and like Dr. Bentley Thomas, I also am a pastor. Just about 29 years now, 3 in Trinidad and 26 in St. Thomas. But I'm here in the capacity of Family Resource Center. I joined the Family Resource Center in 2004. So I have 16 years there working with the Men Terminating Violence program. I'm also at UVI, Ms. Thomas said, in HR, but I also am a part-time, instructor there. I teach statistics as well as freshman development seminar to those young people. And it gives me the, opportunity to talk with them and share with them and help them in terms of relationship building. And so I think that this is necessary. And as Mr. Potter says, it boils back to the family. And you have a strong family, I think that, you're going to have a strong community. And so as this forum goes, we will, have deeper discussion about this and some solutions to what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. I want to start with one question. I don't know if it's out of sequence or not, but it's something that has been kind of on my mind a lot, because I really believe that it is an important factor when it comes to what's happening in our community with respect to crime. So I want to start by asking the panelists, and I'll start with Dr. Thomas. In your opinion, and from your years of experience as a pastor and just as a community activist as a whole, how does the lack of a paternal involvement in the lives of their sons in particular, just that relationship, fathers and sons, and the lack of an involvement from father figures in the life of their sons, how does that impact crime? What role does that play in your opinion?
Well, it's clear, in my opinion, that's one of the pivotal roles that is needed in the community. When you don't have a good father figure, because I wouldn't say a father figure, but a good father figure, that child seems to become anything that the society wants it to become. Because the good father figure provides leadership in the home. And if there's one thing that children gravitate to, is leadership, especially young boys, when they see it. And if the father gives them that kind of leadership, in my experience, they've become the better assets in society. And I've seen that over and over again. My wife and I raised 4 boys, and we made sure that we instill in them those kinds of early values. But that father figure is important. And I think this is one of the problems we have in our community here, because most of our young boys don't have strong father figures. And these are the most non-productive young boys in the community, where you don't have a father figure. And this is why our prisons have always been so filled with young boys, even till today. And I keep saying, yes, we know where the problem is, and we have the problem. So the question is, how do we deal with the deck that we've been given? You got to play it. So how you gonna play it? And that's where my major concerns come in. And I've always tried to do that when I was with the prison. I said 40 was over 50 years. I've been with the prison system in and out volunteering, trying to help young boys. We've helped some, but not all, because, jail is a culture that these young fellas gravitate to. And not that any willingness on their part, but it's what they were forced into. So they've become kind of addicted to prison. And my thing was, first of all, we gotta befriend them. And this is a thing that our society is lacking. We don't know how to befriend these kinds of people. Because when they see you identify with these people, everybody would think, Well, that's where I've spent my time identifying with them, not be afraid to invite them home, find the church, take them for a drive, look jobs for them. That's another problem. So I think that the father figure is very, very important. It's the most pivotal point in every home, that father figure. Not a seed planter now.
Right.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's a difference.
Because we have a lot of seed planters in the community, but we're talking about residential fathers to take care of these children. And of course, we have seen where, even though they were not residential, they really took care of the boys. Always had the boys with them. And I think this kind of thing is more needed. But again, we're in a society where everybody kind of looking out for himself, and and our fathers are young children themselves. And so.
I mean, you said something very powerful that stood out to me. The fact you said it quickly, but I think it was such a critical thing that almost instinctively these young boys are drawn towards an assertive leader. They're not getting it or seeing that at home. That is where they're kind of vulnerable to what they may find on the street, which may not necessarily be constructive leadership, and you could end up really going in,
each
in a
person,
bad direction.
Each person is in the mode of looking for leadership, whether boys or girls, looking for leadership, because that's how we're made. Somebody's got to help us. And when that is not given correctly, then the child would look for himself or herself and identify with certain people. And the wrong is always more appealing than the right. So they gravitate quickly to the wrong. And that's how we have what's going on in our community. And hardly anybody is willing to pay a price to deal with these people, because it's tough. It's tough, but it's wonderful.
I want to get from a law enforcement perspective the whole idea that I think that from a young man's perspective, And I'm sure you guys have interacted a great deal with some of our youth and some of our troubled youth. And how, what's that relationship like between police officer and some of these troubled youth?
Yeah, I can answer that. As an officer, we know that there are troubled youths, but it's your approach, okay? Because right now we have you have to get involved, and right now we have the rescue unit. I went to them, and we have this pandemic where um, children are struggling right now when it comes to education and dealing with laptops and teachers and everything. When an officer came to me and said, I'm looking at this monitor, I'm here with my child, and there's another child in the third grade, and he's struggling to understand this work because the parent had to choose to go to work. What do you do? I think what we need to do is go back to how we used to be, where when we see an issue, when it comes to someone else, we step in and we help. That is not really there right now. So when I heard what this officer stated, I went to my partner. He says, "You know what? Hey, let's set up this area where these children can come. We can't hold a lot. We got to stay within the social distance, and we're going to assist these children in moving forward and accomplishing what they need to accomplish within that grade level." Now, there you're going to encounter students or youths with their issues, whatever it is. But we're willing to help. That's what it is. When they see you're willing to help, because officers are supposed to be able to be approachable. We are supposed to be able to look at you and just figure out what do you need that I can't help you with, but I'm going to find a person to help you move forward with whatever that issue is. We find youth, and it's about having that patience, looking at that child and building on making sure that child understand that we're there for them. Things don't happen overnight. Things don't get corrected overnight. You have to have the discipline, and you have to understand you're in for the long haul. And once we understand that, and we are willing to deal with whatever children come from families with issues, we're supposed to be able to take the time to peel away and peel away slowly so we can understand what the issue is and then try to address it. That is the key. It's called having patience. If you don't have it, then you're going to get into this confrontation because you're not trying to slowly understand.
Yeah, the youths of our community, they sometimes they just feel that us, the adults, don't listen. I mean, it is so curious. I'm sitting down here and I'm looking at the word here on your, which is part of your campaign, which is talking about getting serious. So when we are, this is a serious issue, okay? Bishop Thomas put it as we don't have the father figures. We and anybody could plant a seed, like how the bishop said, and but not everybody could have a child, but ain't every man could be a father. And while the bishop said there's a lack of that, no, we don't have a lack of. We have a lot of leadership here. There's positive leadership, like what the bishop said, and there's negative leadership.
Right.
And if you don't want to raise your child in the way that they should be brought up, kind of sounding a little biblical, okay? Because I was brought up that way, okay? If you don't raise them in a way, there are enough parents on the street corners, there are enough parents in different criminal enterprises that are looking to lead your child down any path of adventurous criminal activity that they want to. So we have to be able to be there as parents. And it's not being a father is not just bringing home food on the table. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm taking care of the house. I'm buying your sneakers and your shoes and your stuff that it is being able to have a relationship, especially with the boys. Okay? The girls need it too because the girls don't have that parental figure. What do they go there? How do they get caught up? How does teenage pregnancy, how do all of these issues happen? They happen because of the lack of that father figure. And sometimes they're looking for that love, the girls, that they haven't received out there, that they ain't getting home. Daddy don't hug me. Okay? Just this morning, before I leave, I left to go to work. I grab my son and I hug him. I tell him, hey, hey, and I love you. And I go on to walk. And I'm flying through the door. Okay? So that, and from since he was a little boy to now, he's 14 now. He know daddy grab him, hug him, tell him you love him. Now he get 14 now. He's a little, he's a little, Lord, this is too much love. But he's always going to know that. And he's going to pass that on. These children need those leaders and in those leaders in those positive aspects. So when you seriously talk about it, okay, because I keep looking at this word serious, when we seriously talk about it, okay, it is a matter, I have seen them when we bring them in under arrest and they tell you, hey, tell me about yourself. Because we sit down. It's not a, hey, you in trouble and this is what you do. Hey, man, you may say, hey, I don't have nothing to say about this, about the crime. What happened, man? How you get caught up in these problems? Oh man, you know I going through, you know the problems I having. And now we start to talk serious. You're in trouble for the crime. Well, now we start to talk serious about what's going on with you. That's what okay? And now we start to find out, my son, my father was never home, and whenever he was home, he might as well had not been, and in the troubles he gave, or all the faults and the problems start to come out, and that's what Captain Colbourne is talking about. Now we have to find resources to mend and try to mend this a broken person. Okay.
Yep.
And it's can't remember where it is. I read it. It says it's easy. I forgot how it is to raise up a child and to fix a broken man. And we are at the point where we have a lot of broken men. And the task, as Bishop Thomas says, how do we, those cards on the table, how do we fix these broken men and even young ladies who didn't have the proper parental structure, and they got, some of them are whether males or females that became parents at an early age and didn't even have the tools to function, and then their children got children at a young age, and who's leading who, and we end up into a vicious cycle that we have to seriously stop.
And that's what's feeding the criminal justice pipeline.
That's right.
Good point. I want to give Mr. Williams an opportunity to weigh in on this.
Okay, thank you very much. And, I agree with everything everyone says, and as Dr. Thomas, rightly said that it is pivotal, today, and very much so. When I was growing up yesterday, my mother raised 14 of us without a father. 8 boys, 6 girls. None of us ever had issues with the law. Because, well, Mama, 6'1", over 400 pounds. And very early o'clock. And we're going to talk about this because, it is unfortunate that the police officers and the school system have to deal with the symptoms. Because most of the issues that we are dealing with out here is a home issue. Okay? And so early o'clock, those old people, they knew that children had a will, and they had to bring that in subjection early before they passed that window of opportunity. There's a window of opportunity for that will to be broken. So once Mama established that, all Mama had to do, give me a look. And that look was loaded. I behaved myself right away. Because I know that look means problem. That's all she had to do. And never think. And then the community. No father was there, but the older guys, the older ones in the community, when I step out and I step out of bound, they put me back in bound. Because the community, was there, so they helped Mama. And so when Mama left to go any place, Mama would just call out to the neighbor, I gone to town. And that means a lot. That means that you're in charge. And it helped, in two ways. And so, but today, the community is not, that involved. And so you have to. I raised, two children here in this community, my daughter and my son. And I, gave them the same training that I did. So I never had to go to school for them. I go to check up and work out whatnot, just to check us out what's not. But they know, that school was not a place to misbehave, was a place to learn. One time the teacher, I went to pick up my daughter, and he said that my daughter, the only thing she talked a little too much. And then I just had to, have a conversation with her that the classroom is not hers, it is the teacher's. And if she said, don't talk, don't talk. She's in charge. And I gave the teachers the responsibility because I can't be two places at the same time. When I drop them here, I drop them in the care of an adult. And that adult is in charge. If they step out of line, you put them in line. When I come, I reinforce it. Reinforce that because it means that you were out of line with an adult. All those kind of things, have disappeared from here. And so we have to deal with those things. But what I want to say here, and then I'm going to shut up. At the Family Resource Center and at the church, I have started, some relationship building class, because I think that is very important. And Dr. Bentley Thomas, the Sarge and the captain, they mentioned about it, that you have a lot of seed planters because they have no relationship skills. So they go around and they plant. They get in a relationship here, and they cannot manage the relationship because you don't have no skills. Relationship is hard work. And hard work becomes easy when you have the proper tools. And a lot of people get into relationship without the right tools. So imagine, and I always use this analogy. I go down the road, I meet a young lady. And I told her that I love her, and I want to marry her, hook up together, and we start to build a family. Without spending one day at any counseling session of how to manage this relationship. But we're going to live for the rest of our life without those tools. And so we need to start there. You see, because relationship is very, very important. And so once I have the skills and the tools, it means then that I have a relationship to build with my son, I have a relationship to build with my daughter, but the first relationship is with my wife. You see? And remember that the two of us didn't grow up in the same house. So there are differences here that we have to manage and learn how to manage these differences. I'm from St. Kitts. My wife is from Trinidad. She grew up completely different to me. But we spend time to acquire those skills, those tools, because we know, and we are celebrating, 27 years now. And so we know that we need that skill. And so around here with us, this is the issue. Imagine, let me say this and then I'm gonna shut up. Yes, Peter. Imagine imagine, because at the center, recently, a young man came in there, and he has about 6 children. The oldest could be about 7. And he was saying to myself and Miss Roy, he cannot talk to them. He can't control them. I mean, that was sad. I mean, you're talking about 7-year-old or what have you. But this is what I want to say here. Imagine, a 14, 16, 17-year-old, bring a whole life in this world, to manage this life, to take this life from point A to point B without one day of training. Imagine that person spend about an average of, 16 to 20 something of a years in school, trying to learn a skill in order to make a livelihood. And now they're making robots that can do the same thing that you spent 20 years doing, trying to learn. But you're going to take a whole life from point A to point B without any training. Yet, if you are going to be a pilot, you have to spend years to take people's lives from point A to point B, and a number of years training. A bus driver, a train driver, you have to. But we have, young people just, getting up and having a whole life to take with any training. And so then the cart is before the horse, and we have all these problems. So we have, as Mr. Potter says, the family need to be the target. We need to get back to the family and strengthen the family. Give the family the skills that they need to raise the children, so that we wouldn't have to be dealing with the symptoms out here. Because the symptoms we are dealing with, and we would always have problem, because the sore would still be there.
Yeah, one thing, if I may, that hasn't been touched on by any of us yet, and I wanted to bring this forward, because in looking at this here, y'all have talked about the going back to basics, going back to basic grassroots, how you raise your children, and let you as a father or as a mother take a leadership role. The world has changed. And one of the greatest challenges that we have, okay, is I could go right now home right now.
Social media?
Social media. Okay. That is
That wasn't
seriously
there.
speaking.
That wasn't there.
That wasn't there before.
That's a huge thing.
And
See,
when I could go right now, okay, and he is going to be on a game, and not only on a game, he got a mic, and he is communicating with
Snapchat,
2 or 3 different people, and okay, so he got his cell phone here, he has his screen, and then he have another little screen inside the one screen, and he is doing 3 different functions at the same time. And which one of those ones are because now there's another leadership that's on the screen, and if you're watching Grand Theft Auto, most of these children, okay, can a lot of them going to just explain me about my weapon better than I know. Because they watch either Grand Theft Auto, whatever, and they say this is a Glock, this is a this is a semi, this is a full, this is whatever, just from the video game, because the video game lays it out for them properly. Shows them how to something is planned out, how it's executed, how it's done. So these influences can be out there, and then the little pop-ups and all these other stuff reap havoc. So that's something that we're going to do our basic raising, but then we have these other challenges.
So that's what I was saying before. We can go back and talk about the should have been, the should have been tense. We passed that. We have to deal with the hand we have right now. And if the truth be told, we're not even trained to deal with what's happening now. So we need to come up with training that would deal with and understand these children. Because all we can talk about is how we came up. But these children today, they're telling you how they want to come up. You know, and we've got to learn to deal with that. So it calls for a lot of patience. And in psychology, it's always said that children need the understanding of the parents, or parents need the understanding of the children more than the children need the understanding. And that's the way we don't want to go. We don't want to try to understand that child because we know he's out of whack. And the least thing we can do is either abandon the child, hit him upside the head, or show no interest and say he's done forever. But I found out that if you move into the ballpark where they are, listen to the foolishness that they talk. They have a different language, of course. And they cuss you and cuss all kinds of things. But you've got to begin to have some kind of identification with what you have in order to deal with it. And that's where I find my biggest problem. I would go to businesses and say, look, here's a young man, made a mistake in life, served 20 years in jail. I want us to help him. He's out. No, we want to get a job. What he did, he said, I ain't want no more over here. Right away the trouble. He been to jail? Nothing going. Well, this is where we are. Based upon what we are seeing before us, because we have not been raised that way, we tend to abandon even trying.
Yes.
And that's where we are today. Why we have so many repeaters.
It is.
Why you have to lock up the people all the time, because nobody wants to spend. As a matter of fact, I've found parents who said, I'll never go visit my child in prison. You know, I
That's a
didn't teach
popular
him
thing
to
to
go
say
to
now.
jail.
It's a
I'll
popular thing
never
to
go
say.
there. So we
Yeah, we-
miss the opportunity. And
Yeah.
you see, we don't realize that we're living in a new age.
Yeah.
And the children feel like we're out of step with what's happening. So we've got to get to try to understand them.
Yeah. We do, and you you hit the nail on the head. We
Okay.
ostracize. If you have some involvement with the criminal justice system, you are ostracized from this community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every application that you fill out will have you ever been
Everything you do.
convicted, whatever.
Yeah.
And once you answer yes, truthfully, chances of you getting that job is slim to none. So you don't have a skill, you don't have a job, you have a criminal record. What do?
And this is where I
The
say
cycle
that
of recidivism really starts again.
all of us now should become
We do.
that father figure
It's in our best interest.
to
That's the thing about
deal
it.
with that child that is not a child anymore, but has childish ways. And you can't tell him he has childish ways, but you got to deal with what you got.
You're right.
So the question is, how do we plan to do that? And that's where the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
We've got to dethrone ourselves,
Yeah.
forget ourselves, and try to enter into the understanding that drives that
Yeah.
boy or girl.
It's uncharted. It's uncharted
And,
waters. You know.
Yeah,
You know,
we're really very unforgiving as a community of our people. We don't give them. We are quickly to tell you, oh, don't forget you had get in, and we call you to read your stuff, and he who has no sin throw the first stone. And it takes somebody else who know you to tell you, but what about you when you had, and we're so quick to judge and be so unforgiving, and every how it would feel every minute you turn around, somebody reminding you of a mistake you did, that you paid your debt. That's what the system, you pay your debt to society, you come back out and you try to be a productive member of society. But when society don't allow you to come back and be a productive member and say you make a mistake, like a family, you make a mistake, and I hope you've learned and you've grown from it and come come back and let's see how we could move forward positively from here.
They don't allow you to move
That's
forward.
us being serious as a community.
Yep.
I had a very, very good point. I went to a store, I had on my campaign t-shirt maybe about 2 months ago, and I met this young lady who was saying, Mr. Potter, first of all, I'm scared to retire. I said, I mean, you're scared to retire. Well, GRS and have my son. He came out of prison 2 years now, and I'm trying so hard to hold on to him, to keep him on the right track. And he's been out there. I can't say that he want to work, because he's been out there on the trail looking for work every day, and nobody wants to give him a chance. What can I do? And I see him just there on the verge, just about to make that turn, because he's a young man. He has, he's dealing with the social media, he's dealing with society, he's dealing with, your need for this and your material stuff and all. You want to be somebody.
You got a
but
little
you
girlfriend
don't
out
have
there.
exactly. But he has no economic means to survive. Nobody gives him that opportunity. He's been ostracized. For all intents and purposes, we have a community with more churches per capita than any place else, but we are such an unforgiving
And you see,
society, and that's something that
But
is
parenthood,
just-
I'm sorry, parenthood has taken on a different level. And we need to realize that the level we had 20, 30, 40 years ago is obsolete. Doesn't exist anymore. Because the media has changed and set the chart for children to operate this. So we have to now learn to become parents of bionic children. That's what it is. And we have to therefore learn how to deal with them. And the truth is, government doesn't want to train people for that. Government doesn't want to put any money into stuff like that, because that's far-fetched. And parents think that that's too much for them. But that's where we are. And until we realize that we have what we call an alienated population with us, and we have to learn the language of the aliens, we're not going to reach them.
It's true.
And this is where I am. So I have fought, when I was active at the prison, fought to get jobs for inmates coming out. And I want to commend the companies that listened to my argument and gave jobs. And when they give them jobs, they turn out to be productive. And here's something I'd like to say also. With the young children now that are doing a lot of stealing or whatnot, if adults sometimes would tell them, pick up a couple of dollars every week to get these, that'll make a big difference. We don't want to give the children money because we were not raised giving money. And we think that, so there's so many things we need to, and I think, and I would say, if you ever get elected, man, you need to push for training, brother said, to deal with this generation and to deal with the public, the entrepreneurs, that you don't just X somebody out of communication because they've been to jail or they're disgusting. You got to work with them because the disgustingness they've gotten there. And if you've gotten there, you could get back where you were if you have the right people, Do you all still have the police athletic league? I mean,
yes, we have those.
Is it active?
Yeah, is it?
It's somewhat active because of funding and
Oh,
manpower and
is
stuff
it-
like
what is
that. But
that?
it's
Because of
there.
funding.
But we
That's
still
the
have
problem.
it. We still have it. We're still pushing it forward as best we can. One of the things that you're speaking there, Bishop Thomas, that I look at is also where's the rehabilitation? I gone to jail, and when I gone to jail, the idea of me going to jail, okay, I got to solve this time in there, but while I'm in there, I need to be getting ready. Okay,
That's
if we're
key.
seriously talking, and I have to be getting ready for when I come out to be. So if I went in without a skill, I went in with nothing. I'm mad as hell. Okay, and then I come out because I had a couple of years to stew on it, I did, so I'm
Mhm.
even more mad.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm in there,
I learned some tricks of the trade to become a
I
even
have, because
more
I
hardened
have
criminal.
those father figures in
That's
there.
right.
So while in there, I have to get accustomed to a culture, and I have to embrace a father figure in one of those clusters and one of those places inside a jail. I have to embrace a father figure to guide me while I'm in there.
Yes.
Okay?
Let me just
This
say
is
this.
and then what are we offering them to prepare them for when they
Ambush.
come out?
In defense of the prison, let me just say this. That
Mm-hmm.
once you're sentenced, there are programs in the prison that they can be involved with. They even give them re-entry courses, how to enter back into society. So there are things that's happening. And I think the outside is more dangerous than the inside, because when they come out now, nobody wants to hire them.
So
Nobody
in,
wants to hire
I'm,
them.
I'm interested in what
When
you're
I look
saying.
at it, I'm speaking of it holistically.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
when you talk about preparing the outside, I'm talking about when you're in jail also. We need
Yes,
to be
and-
doing, and they have good programs,
yes, they have.
but there's
have good-
so
they
much
have-
more.
They have
They have
programs, and
stuff that there's so much more I feel they could be doing.
there's so much more to be done. But again, it's the question of how the government is investing in this thing.
Mhm.
There's much more to be done, but there's a lot being
And
done.
that's the issue
And-
when we
and
talk
now that
about, when we
I'm
look at funding and stuff like that. That's everybody talk about the funding, but because of the funding, what you spend your money on, okay, is what you're gonna get.
And now hear this now. The bottom line is we've got to be willing to expend ourselves and even be belittled and embarrassed by the people we're trying to help. Nobody wants to stand that today. See, and this has afforded me the opportunity to tell them about the Bible, because everybody around here has been raised in church somewhere. And
Some point.
if you can let them know about that and use that base, that's what I've been doing. It has helped a lot of them. But we need to just change the dynamics and realize it's not what it used to be. People are now operating. Well,
Yeah.
like
So-
in my case, I'm 79 years old. 79.
So my
Young people came and said, "Look, Pastor, you got to get with it." So I had to get with. I got to get with all of this. You know,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
challenged me. So I got. So, okay, man.
as you
And they,
said,
yeah,
Okay,
and they bought me. So this is the thing that I'm saying. We need to get. We need to meet them where they are.
You do.
And deal with what you got, the cards you got. Don't tell them what you didn't get. But let's deal with what we have before us.
Okay, in reference to the Correction Institute, you stated that there's people in the business owners that are willing to take a person
A
who's
few business
a
people.
few. Okay, so
Not many.
that's one of the things we got to work on, because if you're saying, I'm willing to take you, then somewhere in that system, I'm preparing that person to be able to take one of those jobs that they're offering.
And they
Okay?
do. Like, take for instance, they have.
And not only the job, you said you have the spiritual part that you prepare them, but there's other thing, the psychological part.
Oh, that is dealt with too.
pertaining to whatever they have gone through that probably caused them to
That
get
is
there.
dealt with too. That is
So it's a
dealt with.
holistic thing has to happen in the correction system to give that person at least a 90 to 95% chance when they come out, they're going to move in the right direction and not in the wrong direction.
No, there's much that's needed. But take for instance, if they bring somebody to the parole board to be paroled, one of the first things that they have to present to us is the psychological evaluation and whether he's ready to be seen or not. So they have all that in place. And the bigger problem we have, like I said, is the community that is not willing to accept these people back and offer them help. And that's my great concern, and that should be all of our concern.
One of the
Yeah.
things also I think that we have to look at seriously is everybody isn't, because sometimes some kids fall through the. What happened to Peter, who drop out of school and whoever check back to see if he finished school, if we offered him to finish his high school diploma, and every child is not going to be Dr. such and such with a doctorate degree. Some kids are not going to be university or college bound. So it's so important here to recognize the needs that we have in our community years down the line and invest maybe in a vocational school, a private public venture for vocational school. I mean, a big deal. I don't know whether they build it on St. Croix or wherever, that we get our kids, everybody else got one. We are in the Caribbean, we are in a isolated kind of society. Okay, our economy is boxed in and based on us and tourism, and we have to prepare. Yes, the university does their part in bringing out college graduates with they're going to be behind desks, but the boots in the ground are come out of these vocational schools that we have to prepare our kids. Some of them, that the ones that ain't college bound, find out what they like
Yep.
and come out with recognized national certifications in carpentry and stuff that they could go
Electronics.
any place in the world. They don't have to stay home.
Yeah.
They could go any
Look.
place and be able to function wherever they go. We arming them as a community. We arm them as parents. We arm them as the elders with the tools to thrive any place in this life.
Look, you're very correct. I think the whole idea of vocational and technical education initiatives in this community, it has been talked about. It almost seems as though everybody recognizes the need. You almost don't have to persuade anybody that there is a critical need in the Virgin Islands for vocational and technical education institution. People know it, but somehow we never see it as a priority. So you have a whole sector of the community who may not be, like you said, interested in pursuing a college education, but they may be skilled in some of the trades that we need in this community, in masonry, in carpentry, in in plumbing. You know how much I paid for a leaky faucet the other day? I paid a plumber, and it's they're hard to find. You're not finding
Cost more than
local-
electrician.
No, and young people are not. They're not going into the trades because we don't have these opportunities available. So a training institution, a vocational and technical training institution is necessary, a post-high school training institution, and we need to also reestablish vocational and training programs in the schools. Let's say, for example, a construction academy. Suppose we had I saw something like that in New York, where there is a construction academy in high school. So from the 9th grade, you can start focusing on plumbing. You're exposed to the whole gamut. And at some point, you concentrate in one particular area. Now, post-high school, you're prepared to go into the world of work, to engage in something positive and constructive where you can earn a living. You can have a career. So if you're constructively engaged, the likelihood of you getting involved in criminal enterprise to make a living is significantly reduced. My mother always said, idle hands
Devil
is a
workshop.
devil's workshop. She didn't have a criminal justice degree, but she just had the wisdom.
And I know I have a high school, and I graduated from high school many moons ago. Let's just leave it like that. And
It wasn't that many.
there's a fellow who, well, if I got 32 years on a job, Lord of mercy. So there's a young man that, well, he young no more, but he graduated from high school with me all these years, as long as I've been a police, something as simple as being a painter. And he has supported his family. He has just from the skill of painting. Nobody can cut a straighter line than this brother. And this is how he's made his livelihood, raised his family, got his kids. He got a daughter in school in the States going. And this, so everybody from, and we are only as good as our worst person in the community. And so when we start to look down on people, we're looking down on our own self. Everybody from God to the garbage man, okay? You have to have that respect, because the worst one of us, who gonna clean up your garbage when you throw it out?
Everybody got a purpose.
Everybody has a purpose and a usefulness, and we just have to have that communication, have that
Yeah.
dialogue with them, identify what their niche is.
Yeah.
Their niche might just be a painter like my classmate. Okay? It might just be a painter. It might be but we need garbage men. We
That's
need
right.
painters just as much as we need a lawyer and a doctor and all of these
Absolutely.
things.
And I heard one laugh about a garbage man, but a garbage man have a four-story house.
Mm.
You understand?
Oh, I know.
So there's value to it. Okay.
We need to find a way. I think this is something I know, everybody mentioned it today, particularly Pastor Bentley. The idea of how do we persuade the community that it is in all of our best interests to, for example, employ someone who's done his time in prison and is now released. How do we sell that to businesses and citizens in the community that if somebody doesn't give this person an opportunity, we're feeding the cycle of recidivism. That person is going to find some way to survive, and it's likely going to be something not very constructive if nobody gives him a chance.
Listen,
How do we
That's easy.
sell that to the business
the
community?
Bible is right. It sounds simple with the gospel, but all God asks us to do is to tell it.
Hmm.
Talk about it. The talking of a thing helps the thing.
Hmm.
And we don't talk about it. So, as senators, talk about this and not just talk about it, but put some teeth in it
Yeah.
and appropriate monies,
Create some incentives.
to create incentives.
I could bite a little.
If you talk, if you talk about the thing, people would listen
Mhm.
because, well, you see what's happening right now with our presidency. He talk about foolishness, and he got a whole lot of people listening to this foolishness. And it goes to show if you talk the truth will set you free. So let's talk about these things more and let people see that we're not just talking about it, we are engaged in it
Right.
by putting up ourselves and our money where our mouth is and get these things done. We can sit here all day and talk, and
Yeah. Bi-
won't
Bi-
get anywhere.
Bishop Thomas again is correct, and one of the things I grew up in confirmation class and going to church and
Me
and,
too.
and and clean doing all of that. Okay, and if you could, what's the law all about? The law is don't kill, you shall not kill, you shall not steal. What funny, the same Latin in the Bible, the same Latin we got in the books them almost to the T. And if you could interpret the Bible, that's like when you go to Bible study and you debating, it's the same thing you do when you're in court, battling a case back and forth. You arguing law and you arguing, and when you're debating that and what one book said to the other, you're going back and forth. So it's almost whether we want to accept it and we separate in church and school. Sometimes it's almost the same, 6 and 1 and half a dozen of the other.
Talk about it.
And when we sit down in the Senate and we talk about, we give away EDC and this benefit and that benefit back and forth. So how about part of you want these EDC benefits and you want this and that? Okay, you have to go out and they do certain money in the community to spend this event here and they sponsor this and they sponsor that. Okay, well, part of your EDC benefits is to give somebody, a young person who's been in prison, an opportunity in one of these companies. Okay, so
right.
how much stories have we seen over the internet on places about somebody who came out of jail, got an opportunity from a company,
Yep.
and and became a millionaire, or became or took that company from third rate to first rate. So these companies who are giving all these breaks to and these subsidies and things too, part of their requirement is give based on your size of your company and the kind of money you're moving that hey, you need to give 2 or 3 people a chance, and these gonna be the criteria under which you gonna give them a chance so that yes, I'm watching you, but I'm giving you an opportunity, and that kind of money talks and it compels people. You put it in, you do a little amendment to the law there that under EDC or whatever, and you put these things so that when we seriously doing stuff, that we making it serious that we want our young people to have a fighting chance. And that's all they look for.
That's right. I mean, I think one thing that one idea that I had with respect to this whole dilemma that we're facing with crime, with broken families, families in distress, is the Family Redemption Act of 2021. That's something that I have been thinking about. Um, I know that no single person can come up with some fix. It's going to require collaborations with people like Pastor Williams, Pastor Thomas, the VIPD, nonprofit entities in the community. I am thinking that at some point we have to pool our efforts and our resources to begin to address the issue, the real issues, not necessarily finding out. And I know some people think that the solution is let's find out where the gun's coming in. And then if we could find out where the gun's coming in, then the crime can stop. But you could stop the guns,
Because the
then
gun
somebody
them-
can kind of knife.
Because nobody make the gun them hair.
Exactly.
Like a gun is the only thing that gonna kill somebody.
Yes, exactly. So we find out where the gun's coming in the trailers, okay. But then if you don't go to the root cause of the problem, crime is going to continue, but you ain't using guns anymore. So whether you're using knives or you're using stones or you're using grenades, I don't know. So it's not just a matter of finding out where the guns are coming in. It's about us focusing on building the family, the root cause of the issues that we're facing in this community. And I'm thinking that the time is right. We are primed to work collaboratively. They say a house divided will fall. In unity, there is strength. What about us just putting our efforts together for a change to constructively focus on rebuilding this community? Not just nostalgically talking about how it was when we were growing up. I know it was when we were growing up, but like you said, Milton, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have this wide open craziness. I mean, you have a lot of good things that it brings, but it also brings a whole lot of destruction. So I think that is something that I hope, and I had some motive for inviting you all here because I want to bring you in as part of the team of folks who can have an aggressive, like Pastor Thomas, you said a real powerful thing too. Simple and powerful. We need to talk about the thing if we want to persuade people that there are things that we could do. We don't just have to throw out our hands and be overwhelmed and think that this is just the way it is and this is the way it's going to continue to be.
We have a
The
lot
things
of
that we
partners.
can do.
That's
Yes.
right. And your partnership.
That's
you
the
don't
key.
do it silo. This one want to do
Right.
it here, the other one want to do it there.
Yes.
We need to get together. We need to be able, everyone have their part, what they're playing. You look at this person, you say, what part can I make with this individual? How do I work on the whole? And you have to have all those partners to work on that whole. Not one person, everybody. It's no praise that one person is doing this and you want to get the praise. No. If you have a purpose and you want to really do something, you got to get with everybody.
A lot of so often you see police go to a situation or we go and Captain Colbourne believes in partnerships and I've come to believe in them myself because I see how they work. It's like you're going to the beach and you're going to everybody bring in, okay, what you bring in and what you bring in and by the time you're
know, you have a
done,
buffet.
Lord, the party done and Lord, they got so much of this left over that we could give it out. We could go and stop to some homeless people. We could stop to Bentley. Every time we have a function at the station, we go to Bethlehem shelter, we drop off the food, anything that's left over, we fix it up, organize it pretty, and we take it to them. And so partnerships works.
We have Red Ribbon Week coming up this Saturday.
This Saturday?
For the seniors. And I'm asking all the different organizations just to come out, give a box, talk to a senior. There might be something that senior tell you because you got your shirt on, that they need help. We don't stop no one because we have our part to play as VIPD. He has his part to play as the family resource. And here it is. You're there and you say, hi, grandma. And she says, oh, you're such a handsome young man. But you know, I need this and I need that. And he might just be the person that can address that need.
Connect with.
I believe in partnership. That's the only way it works. We have to work together.
That's true.
Have to.
Absolutely.
And that is the
That's the
answer.
key.
We're working separate. And if we continue to work separate, how can we solve the problem?
And the challenge is going to be when you talk about something like certain things, and I mean, when you talked about what you said, you can't do it by yourself. There's going to be 14 other individuals who are elected that are going to sit on it. When you bring them a vocational school, when you bring these bills to bear, they have to recognize it and recognize that it is. And you open here this here today so properly with the most serious issue that we have. Family. Our family in terms of
That's
mothers
the
and
key.
fathers
That's the key.
and us as a Virgin Islands
Family.
family. So you
Family.
open this here in the right direction, and our need to communicate and make the best decisions as a family sitting down. What does our family need to move ahead, to prosper? What does I mean, you telling everybody to hit the nail on the head, but when you open this head today, you hit the nail on the head, open this head talking about family.
Yep.
How about Virgin Islands family as
True.
parents, family in general? How are we going? Let the legislature sits down. That's the parent meeting at the table, making the decisions for the Virgin Islands family.
Correct.
How are we going to spend the paycheck them come in? What are we going to do? What,
Yeah. That's the priority.
You know, as we move forward, let me just say this because you know we have the whole mouthful. You know, a lot of things been said, and we and it is the family, and we know that you know things have changed when we talk about the social media and what have you. And I know that perhaps most of you listen to the former, you know, president yesterday, and in his speech he said that there are some things that make us American and make us human beings. Those things can change. You know, character, values, integrity. So regardless of how we change and wherever, those things make us human, and those things strengthen the community. And I always use the analogy of years ago I was trained to be an auto mechanic. Some years later, I had to retrain to be an auto technician because I know computer. But you know what happened? All those computer stuff and sensors, that just cosmetic stuff. The basic four-stroke engine remains, and it can't move. Otherwise, the engine would never work. And these basic things that from home, regardless of what computer and social media, they must be instilled in our children. Otherwise, our society is going to be in a mess if we don't have them.
This is one of the reasons why within recent times we have started to feed hungry people. So once a month we drive around our to Savannah and whatnot, give it over 100 meals. And we're just trying to get to know the people. And I think this is what we need to get to know what we have. We talk about what's going on in the community, but we don't know the people. And if we get to know them and they see showing interest in them, it might change the dynamics. It will change the dynamics. So we need to get to know the people because we don't know what we have. And when the people get to see who getting to know them, there's a kind of a lifter up, you know, pride, you know. And I think that there's so many things we can do to collaborate together. And I commend the police department because I've already said in my some things y'all doing going to do. God has given you all a special job. But I think all of us can find where we fit in this community. Stop thinking about ourselves with the intent of helping somebody else.
And that's one of the things that we are drifting. And I mean, this thing, and I was speaking to another pastor this week, and we were talking about the mask and putting on the mask on our face and 6 feet apart. That don't mean when I go home, we don't take the 6 feet apart home, and we don't even hug our kids to tell them not, because we still got 6 feet apart in our head, and husbands don't want to hug their wife, and we still got 6 feet apart in our head, and it affects us. But going to the point that Bishop Thomas brought up, when we go out in the community, when we grew up, it was one way. Now we have such an influx. We have people from the Dominican Republic.
Everywhere.
We have people from Haiti.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
have people. We thought that we had a melting pot growing up, and we used to make all kind of names for different people for different places, and Garrett and this and all kind of thing. And we thought, no, we didn't have nothing then. Now we have a social melting pot
Nice
of
melting
so
pot.
much cultures and so much influences
Really
and
nice.
so many things here
Mhm.
that we have to be able to unite and address these things. So when
That's true.
Bishop Thomas talks about getting out there and touching people and getting to know different cultural backgrounds and stuff. Like when the police go there, I got to know that this person is from this culture, and in this culture, this is how they think, this is
Mhm.
how they reason, this is how
Yep.
they react. So I have to be able to reach them and reach a common ground with them in that communication in that first
Correct.
2 minutes, or I
Correct.
may lose everything.
Mhm.
And so that reaching out is so important.
You're correct. Something as basic as that, but I think we're not. I don't know if it's courageous enough. I don't know if that's the correct word to do that. To approach people, to get to know people. You're driving home, hard day at work. I live in Tutu Valley. You see some young kids on the street doing something. You just keep going your way, and I think that's kind of how we've been living in this community now. People have just been doing their own thing, going their own way. Maybe sometimes they're scared. They don't know how to approach
We are being
someone.
held hostage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
afraid.
end up just doing nothing and keeping the status quo, and things continue to get worse and worse and worse. It is time for us to have the courage, I think, to do something. Somebody told me the other day, not the other day, a long time ago, when I had my first job, he came to me and he said, the advice that I give to you. He said, do something,
Mhm.
and you could beg pardon afterwards. But don't just come on this job and kick the can down the road. Do something different. Do something new. You may make mistakes, but at least there's a chance of you improving the
Something.
condition and improving things. I think that's what we really need to do in this community now.
Just do.
We need to pool our resources, come
Together.
together, and do something. It is in all of our best interest.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It is.
it's no different than driving down the road. I driving down the road, and there's a box, an empty box.
Mhm.
In the middle of everybody and the grandmother drive around the box.
That's
Everybody.
all it is true.
Who I said,
I've
when
seen a box.
and
Nice turn.
you stop.
Mhm.
You stop and you pick up the box and get it out
Yeah.
of the way.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have this, and I was discussing this with another pastor, and where the Bible said we are going to become lovers of ourselves. And when you look at it, we got COVID-19 and it's separating us, which make you can't. I saying to you, I love you, is different than me reaching out and giving you a hug,
Demonstrating
and
that
a hug and the words, so that we're separated,
Yeah.
and we can't even say that to each other.
Yeah.
And the more we seem to be, and those people from there and these people from there, and everything is separated, and my family. So no longer, I don't know what the next door neighbor doing, and
Yeah. You don't even know what the next door neighbor's name is anymore.
we
That's
separated, and
crazy.
we segmenting ourselves,
Mhm.
and so no longer is a village raising a child.
Yeah.
We say these things, we say them, but we are not living them.
Yeah.
And we have to go back to to living them and making decisions in that direction. Most of us are thinking about myself,
Yeah.
and the other one is thinking about their selves, and like they said, okay, everybody for themselves and God for us all, and we're not headed. So when you talk about family, that's what we need to get back. So when you talk about that, that is something serious.
And really
Absolutely.
also
Absolutely.
understand that the youths do positive things, but you have to express that positive. I dropped one of our volunteers in hospital ground. We passed these guys every day. We saw the place was dirty, messed up, everything. I stopped. I got out. I said, hey guys, this is where you live. This is how things should be. I took out some masks. All of them didn't have no masks. I had a whole pack of masks in my car. Took them out. I says, here, take three, take three, take three. Take three, take three, take three. And from that, the next day, I gave them money. I says, go and just get a garbage bin, anything. They cleaned up the place. They bought rakes. They did what they had to do. And when I walked up, they said, wow, who is she? Wow, you know? But it's, and you think that they would not do, as you said, just get out.
Yeah.
Just rap to them, and
Yeah.
you will see they will make a difference. They just want somebody to talk to them and believe in them.
And
That's
those,
it.
and the funny thing about that, with that part of the story, those are the same guys on hospital ground that on another initiative, we go out and we up against the wall and we shake them down. And so they were so surprised now that there's some. So when the captain pull up, they waiting for something like that to
Roughness.
happen.
Yeah.
And
Nope.
no, let's get this cleaned
was
up.
good.
Let's do it. And it was a different rapport
That was
that
good.
they was so they didn't know what to do with it.
You're right.
We have to treat
You're
each
right.
other like human beings.
We do. I think we have many more reasonable people in our community than unreasonable people. Sometimes, you may listen to the radio, you may see some unreasonable people or hear people who are talking the loudest or talking more often, and you think that is the prevailing theme. That's the consensus. Far and away, I think we have more reasonable people in this territory than unreasonable, and people are waiting for us to take some leadership. To give them a sense of direction. This is where we need to go, to begin to bring some cohesiveness to this territory. We keep in count of the gun crimes and how many people were murdered. I think the number is up to 42. And it could have been 52 or 62 or 72 because you have people who have shotguns who missed. They may have been aiming and they missed. So we might have lucked out at the number 42, but it could be way more than that right now. So I don't want us to get caught up in the numbers. I think we really need to begin to understand the root cause of some of the challenges that we're experiencing in this community with respect to crime. And I think a lot of it has to do with strengthening Virgin Island families. And everyone has a role to play, not just the legislature passing some miraculous bill to fix it all. It's about us doing our part in our community. Pastor Thomas says, God bless you, VIPD. You have a special gift and a special calling that not everybody else might be able to do. Some of the things that you see and do every day, But you have a role, Pastor Thomas, Pastor Williams. We all have the communities, neighbors, the nonprofit entities. We all have a role to play. And if we pool our resources, I believe that we can move the needle when it comes to crime in our community. So that's my thoughts. And I want to thank you all so very much for this very engaging and enlightening conversation. I know we can't fix the problems in an hour, but we can begin the process. As Pastor Thomas said, we can talk about it. That's the first step towards us beginning to effectuate change.
That's what the gospel is all about. Preach the gospel. Tell men about Christ. Tell men about lostness. And some of us may have to even die in the process of helping other people.
Mm.
But guess what? Once you know Christ as your Savior, and from my side now, you don't care about that because you want to know that you're doing the will of God. And once you feel comfortable doing the will of God, you know that He is with you, and whatever happens to you, He is the one allowing it to happen. And this is what we need to take on. And we just need to realize that we are a part of what we see around us. In other words, we are at fault. You got to take some blame for what's happening around us.
Yep.
And if we take some blame about it, then we try to fix it. You know, and we're in it together.
You're right.
So that's what it's all about.
Thank you. I'll give you all a minute to wrap up.
Well, listen, you got a lot on that thing. You got a lot to deal
I
with.
know.
You could play this thing for the next year. Peace here and peace there. You got a lot. But you know, I want to thank you for the opportunity to express some of these views that we've had today. And my driving force, I got to give my testimony. Y'all need to know that my driving force is Christ in my life. I feel like Christ has given me the power to try to help. That's why a lot of people don't understand me. Something you see me driving, I may have a Rastafari in my truck. You know, I say, well, you know, I see him as a man. You know, I don't let nobody ride in the back of my truck. But if they want, I put them in the front. They ride me in the front. But we've got to let people know that we're interested in them. Yeah. And we don't mind befriending them. And once you develop a relationship with people, change will come. Yeah. And even if you just have one person, change will come. Just one at a time. That's how it happens.
All right. Any final words?
Well, just one of the things that you said, and it looked like no matter how more things change, the more they remain the same. And when I first got promoted, one of my mentors told me, just get my first supervisory rank, and he said, Petersen, listen, a decision is better than no decision. And too often we sit down and we see the senators and they talk and we talk and we talk and we talk, and then the session is over and a discussion and we talk, but no decision. But if they had made the decision and draft the bill and we address this part of it, and then we could come back again and grow and build on it. But because we want to talk about it and we didn't want to make a decision, we made no decision where a decision would be better than. So exactly what your mentor told you back then.
Yes.
When you get in, remember that same idea, because to be serious, and you said let's get serious. To be serious, it's gonna require you to make a decision instead of no decision, and that's being serious. And I know you're a serious individual.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Times like these, we need a true leader. A call for action, a call for Milton pattern. No more playing games, we live a life that is tough. We need Milton pattern to come and rescue us. Our island are bleeding in our sea. Milton pattern to rescue it. Let's get it. It's a matter of time and change is here for pattern, and let's get serious.
Milton Potter.
This is Milton E. Potter, your candidate for a seat in the 34th legislature of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Let's get serious about finding real solutions to the many vexing problems plaguing these islands. Remember, casting blame is not a solution. Let's get serious about the big five: crime, healthcare, education, WAPA, and GERS. This is Milton E. Potter, and I approve this message.